Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'd like to talk a bit about build costs and crafting for the build AFK Gone Cheap and AFK Gone Meta. There are a lot of questions about the price because we're actually telling you that this build is cheap, at least the AFK Gone Cheap version of it. There are some mechanisms that can affect the price picture of the different items in the build. I'd like to start to talk to you about the key items which the price can fluctuate a bit about. We have the Razor of the Seventh Sun and we have the Eye of Innocence. Then we have the Essence of Hysteria, which we use to craft our helm and scepter, which can differentiate between the early part of a league and the late part, but also in between different leagues. This is not the case for Razor of the Seventh Sun and Eye of Innocence. They are the same between leagues. I'd like to start with Razor of the Seventh Sun and Eye of Innocence. What we need to know about those items are that they only drop from the Phoenix boss, the Guardian of Phoenix. Always in the start of every league, people are writing, why are there no Eye of Innocence, why are there no Razor of the Seventh Sun? Well, the answer to that is pretty simple, because there are no. People need to kill the Guardian of the Phoenix for those to drop. And they cannot occur or come to the market until people are killing those bosses. And that takes time during a new league because everyone has crap gear and they're doing other things that are more important than killing the Guardians. They're trying to get their currency up so they can afford the build they want and then kill the Guardians and Shaper and Abberath, Syria, etc. So this means that they will not drop during the first days of the league. Almost none will be out for sale. Maybe after a week people will start selling those. And they will go very expensive. We're talking about several exalts for Eye of Innocence. Here is some history for the price picture of Eye of Innocence. If we check the Legacy League, here we are at the end of March. But if we go back to the beginning, the 7th of March, a couple of days into the league, Eye of Innocence were at 3 exalts. That is pretty expensive, and that's not the price picture of this item. It's just because demand is so much higher than the supply, because almost no Phoenix bosses have been killed. Now if we move on to Razor of the Seventh Sun, the case is much alike, but the price drops much faster because this item drops a lot more from a Phoenix boss than Eye of Innocence. So the price drops pretty quickly, and it doesn't start as high. So here we're talking about 0.8 exalts at the same date. And then it drops down in a couple of days to a fifth of that. So we're talking about a couple of chaos. Eye of Innocence doesn't drop down so quickly. It goes down to maybe half its price or a third in a couple of days. But then it keeps on dropping and dropping. But we'll get to that later on where it is today. Then we have the Essence of Hysteria. This is like a currency item. You use this to craft your items. So this is how it will work. Early in the league, people want to just get the items they want. So they're gonna sell those pretty cheaply. And demand isn't gonna be too high because you maybe craft 1 item or 2, so you have your build working and then you're done. But then, as you want to upgrade your build, you want to craft it even better, you'll use more and more, which increases the demand. But the supply is still the same, so the price over time will increase. So at the start of a league, it was about 4 chaos or 5 chaos. It was insanely cheap. This is because the Legacy League has a lot of essence mods, so it's easy to obtain those items. Now, if we go 1 month into the league, as we said, it will increase. So Essence of Hysteria is now at about 8 chaos, and it's increasing in price. Now, Eye of Innocence also reduces. It's the opposite, because it's bound to the Phoenix boss, and the supply increases while the demand is the same, so the price goes down. So now it says 0.2 exalts, but I would say that it's even cheaper than that. I think it's at about 8 chaos. Razor of the Seventh Sun is maybe down to 1 chaos. So here we have Eye of Innocence today at Legacy League, maybe the bottom 2 of Flippers, but yeah, we're talking about 8 chaos. If we go down, yeah, maybe 10. And that's 1 month into the league. Now, if we release an update video or something like that, people will get interested in the build and they will like to try it. Of course, then demand increases and you will expect all those 3 items to spike a lot. This spike is not during the whole league. This spike maybe is for a couple of days or a week. And it can make the Razor of the Seventh Sun go from maybe 1 chaos in price to maybe 5 chaos in price or 3 chaos, because we still have an enormous supply, so it will not increase dramatically. But Eye of Innocence maybe goes from 8 chaos to 30 chaos. These things can happen when you release a build guide or a montage video. The same is for Essence of Hysteria. It can go up from 8 chaos to 20 chaos in 1 day. That has happened before, and people are getting very angry because it's saying it's not cheap, but that is not the case. Because if you start a character now and you level it up for a couple of days, those 20 chaos will drop down to maybe where we were before or a bit higher. So it's still cheap, it's not just as cheap, it is more reasonable priced, but it's still very cheap. Now I would like to move on to the meta version of a build, because there are some differences. The most apparent of those are the Abberath Hooves, which I use. It's not a must. It doesn't increase the clear speed dramatically, but I really like how the build works with this pair of boots. They cost about 2.2, 2.3 exalts in the Legacy League. The price will get higher and higher and higher during the league as the time goes. That has been the case before, and I'm thinking that is going to be the case now as well. It was 2 exalts not too long ago, and it's going to increase. And maybe stop around 5 exalts. That's how we worked last league. So these are pretty expensive. We also have a chest we need to use. I use a 6-linked Belly of the Beast, and it is pretty expensive. If we would check that out, and we will see that it costs a lot. Yeah, okay, 5 exalts. That is pretty much. An alternative to that is to run a 6-linked chest plate. And what do you do with it? Well, you craft it with something called Deafening Essence of Greed. And those run not too expensive, maybe 4 chaos, maybe 5, depending on, yeah, it's probably not 3. This is not expensive at all. What you get is a life roll between 120 to 126. I got 125 on my chest plate, I rolled with it. It was a difference of maybe 200 life between it and a 6-link Belly of the Beast. Why is this chest plate so good? Maybe you don't want to run the Abberath Hoof version. Maybe you want to run an Incinerate setup or Cast One Challenge setup. And this requires a lot of off colors. This will be almost impossible with Belly of the Beast. But with an Energy Shield chest plate that is 6-linked, it's really easily and it's not expensive. You end at maybe 25 chaos for the whole craft. And you'll lose about 200 life. So it's about 4.5 exalts cheaper, it's really easy to roll the colors. I think that's a fair trade-off. So that's what I would run if I did the build. Even with Abberath Hooves version, this is much cheaper than the Belly of the Beast. And I personally haven't 6-linked an item in my life, so I always buy them ready. The item level doesn't matter for the Essence of Greed. You'll still get the roll that it's stated on it. But the item level can affect the other mods you get, so if you want higher resistances, you maybe want a higher item level on the chest plate. Other things that can cost some currency are the jewels. They can be very cheap. All I require is at least 7% increased maximum life roll, and that's the max roll on that, because you need to get as much life as possible. Add a filter group, so you must have 7% on, and then in the other filter group you can maybe say you want some spell damage, you know, spell damage while dual wielding, area damage, maybe you just want increased damage, fire damage, resistance. But yeah, this is a good start. You can put count and you can say we want at least 2 of those. Now we have a much more expensive jewel, from 30 chaos to 1 exalt, to get several of those mods. Maybe you say, okay, one of those is enough. The price will drop down dramatically. Yeah, we're talking about a couple of chaos. So depending on how godly jewel you want, the price will fluctuate a lot. So get the jewel you can afford. It's not worth to burn all your currency here just to get one more mod. You're gonna be able to one-shot a lot of stuff, even without the fabulous jewels. Yeah, so that's the pricey things, of course, the rare belt and the gloves, and maybe if you want a rare ring or something, they're gonna cost some, depending on how great you want them to be. But they can be all the way from really cheap to really expensive. What I would say overall is try to get those life rolls as high as possible, because the bigger the life pool you have, the less one-shots you're gonna get. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see what we'll take on next.